Thierry. Thank you, Glenn. And thank you, Glenn, for inviting me here. My name is Thierry, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is June 1st, 2019. I have a sponsor. His name's Greg D. I also sponsor other men. I have two home groups. It's BYOC. It stands for Bring Your Own Coffee. It's in New Rochelle, New York, and Bronx Big Book Study. We meet every single night at 9 p.m. Intensive look at line by line with the big book. It's fantastic. So I'll put the digits in the chat after the meeting. But and today I have a beautiful relationship with God, and I just want to really thank everyone who supported me, and that warms my heart. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to welcome the newcomers as well: Liza, Danielle, Chris, Mike, and Kyle. Welcome home. I'm glad you're here. And before I drank, I had this internal discomfort, this internal dis-ease, this fear of people, fear of what other people thought of me. And there's a line on page 52. It's one of the 9 bedevilments. It says we couldn't make a living. And I was taught to take statements and turn them into questions in the big book. And when I was asked that question, I was like, yeah, broke as a joke, easy guess, right? After studying this book a little bit further, it means I'm not comfortable living in my own skin. And that's exactly how I felt before I drank. Then I found alcohol, the answer to all my problems. It was the solution. But I was funny. I was dashing. I was more confident. I suddenly realized that alcohol was doing for me what I could not do for myself. Right. And I went to 4 rehabs in high school. I was mandated, more like mom dated, to these rehabs. And when I got out, I didn't want to stop, right? In the doctor's opinion, it talks about men and women drink essentially because they like the effects produced by alcohol. I like the effects. It took care of those bedevilments on page 52, right? It took care of the internal discomfort, right? And in 2006, I got a DUI. And then 1 month later, I got arrested again. Just like the jaywalker, you expect if you were normal to cut it out. I just kept going on, right? You tell a non-alcoholic he gets a DUI, goes to court, pays all the fines, he'll never drink and drive ever again. Me, I'm like, I'm not driving by that corner where I got pulled over. Or maybe I'll negotiate with the speed limit the next time I drive, right? And in 2008, I got a job working for a gym chain called New York Sports Club. And I started out as a membership consultant. I worked my way all the way up to general manager, all the way up to director of sales. I have arrived. The drive for success was on, right? It was a perfect place for someone who has internal discomfort issues, because mostly everybody in the gym business has self-image issues. So I prospered in that area, right? And so about, over a period of time, about 4 years before me stopping, I had this utter inability to leave alcohol and drugs alone. Right? Bill talks about liquor ceased to be a luxury, it became a necessity. And I developed what is this phenomenon of craving that comes in form of an allergy. And the definition-wise, in the 1930s, allergy meant an abnormal reaction to food, beverage, or substance. So essentially, I get thirstier when I drink. I basically become a machine without an off button, right? And I admitted that alcohol is injurious, right? I've been to 6 rehabs, had open heart surgery, arrested, all this stuff. But over a period of time, I couldn't differentiate the true from the false, right? I was asked this question: what did I expect when I first got drunk, right? And I'm like, damn, that's a tough question, right? But that's all I knew for 20 years. I drank when I was happy. I drank when I was sad. I drank when I was joyful. I drank at dinner. I drank at morning. I drank at work. I was a general manager. I could do whatever I want. Right? My alcoholic life seemed like the normal one. So I have this abnormal reaction to alcohol. When I drink, I get thirstier, right? However, when I'm sober, guys, I have an abnormal reaction to abstinence. I have an abnormal reaction to sobriety. I'm restless, irritable, and discontent unless I get some ease and comfort with a couple of drinks. I don't know about you, but I'll get ease and comfort by just being on the liquor line about the cops and booze. Or actually, I'll get ease and comfort by stealing your money, and then now I'm on that liquor about the cops and liquor and booze, right? And so all of a sudden, I have this obsession of mine where I can't stay stopped, right? And then all of a sudden, I succumb to this obsession, and I drink again. The phenomenon of craving kicks in, off to the races, and I'm stuck in this trap. Right? And the doctor's opinion talks about we need an entire psychic change. And what is an entire psychic change, right? It's a spiritual experience. Right? Life goes on, but we react differently. It's having a change of heart, right? Looking at life through a different pair of glasses, having a personality change. I thought everyone was brainwashed when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. My brain needed to be washed. I was outright mental defective when I came in here, right? And this is the top dog in the 1930s that's telling us that we need an entire psychic change. He said that we're doomed. He said that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men and women than the altruistic movement now growing among them. He says we doctors have made a little impression on the problem as a whole, right? This is the top dog in the 1930s treating alcoholics. Right? So in 2018, I had a heart attack. I was at the Dobbs Ferry movie theaters, and I was with my wife and watching The Greatest Showman. I lose my breath. I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of panicky, and I'm driving back with my wife, and I tell my wife I don't feel good, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, you're always you're crying wolf at this point, Terry." Right? She notices my eyes are turning blue, and she's like, "I'm going to take you to the doctor." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm good to go." Right? So obviously, I went back home, and all of a sudden, I'm on my couch. I lose my breath. And then my cat, he comes up on the couch. I'm actually laying this side. Comes up, has 2 feet on the floor, 1 foot on the base of the couch, and pulls my shoulder back like this. I lock eyes with my cat for about a minute. I've never seen my cat do this in my entire life. I said, okay, I'll go to the hospital. I go to the hospital. I had 5 bypass open heart surgery. They call it a Cadillac surgery. Why? Because the doctor buys a Cadillac after the surgery, right? They put a balloon pump in me to keep me alive, right? I had to sleep sitting up like this with a balloon pumping my heart because they thought I was going to drop dead, right? And I'm going through detox, right? I'm going through the shakes while I'm in the hospital, right? And the doctor, I'm in so much pain. The doctors don't understand why I'm hitting the morphine button every 8 minutes. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with this guy? And I'm not telling them the truth, right? Grasping and developing a manner of living that demands rigorous honesty. Yeah, okay. I developed and polished to perfection a manner of living that demanded rigorous dishonesty. I did not want anyone to know who I was, how I lived a double life, how I searched madly for the bottle in the morning, how I stole your wallet and helped you look for it. No, I didn't want anyone to know that. Right when I got out of rehab, out of the hospital, they told me never to drink and drug ever again. I stayed sober because of fear. Right? Fear is an unreliable higher power, guys, period. I'll throw this out there as well. Success is an unreliable higher power. Money is an unreliable higher power. People are unreliable higher power. Doesn't help us in those strange, mental, hazy blank spots. The insanity before the first drink. Bill called it time out of mind, right? Right? You know, it says, we are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the suffering and humiliation of what happened just a week or a month ago. I'm without a defense against the first drink. I'm going to drink unless I arrest my alcoholism. I did not have a defense. I picked up right where I left off. 1 year later, I get a call from my wife. She's in the hospital. She had blood clots in her lungs. Her dad died at age of 50, blood clots. Her sister died at age 30 of blood clots. And, you know, I thought that she was going to die. And, you know, like a normal person you would expect to be by her side. No, I just got trashed. Right? Woke up 5 days later and she was home. And I said, holy shit, I have a problem. So I started going to AA and I started hearing my story. And I was like, that's me, that's me, that's me. Look, the miracle of identification is beautiful. I thought of this lone wolf, this lone ranger. No one ever felt the way I felt. No one ever thought the way I thought. But no, I got twins all on these Hollywood squares everywhere. Right? And then I was approached by people who were armed with opinions, and they told me not to drink, go to meetings, don't be in a relationship for a year, think the drink through. You're on steps 1, 2, 3, no major decisions in the first year. That did not work. That did not work. Right? I got ADD. I got alcohol defiance disorder. That does not work for me, right? These are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. And I don't blame them because they were taught by people armed with opinions, and they were taught by people with armed with opinions, and so on and so forth. Right? So I'm still going to meetings. I thought I was crafty. I'm high during the meetings. Thought no one would notice, and drunk afterwards. Right? You can just tell by our eyes. And I got to the point where I was 100% hopeless, guys. I needed divine help. I needed divine intervention. I'm waking up every single morning asking God, why are you keeping me alive? I am purposely trying to overdose at this point. I needed divine intervention. So I drop off my golf clubs at this kid's house, and I'm driving back, and I see this kid. He had his shirt off. He had the same open heart surgery scar I did. I get out of the car. He was an Alcoholics Anonymous. I was an Alcoholics Anonymous. He was drunk and high. I was on my way to go get drunk and high. Like I said, I thought I was the youngest person ever to have open heart surgery and drink and drug afterwards. No, this kid, 22 years old. 22 years old, had 14 strokes before his open heart surgery. Later on, I'm at Subway. I'm broke, guys. You know, lost $30,000 in 2 months. I got fired from my job. I'm actually going through a divorce with my wife. I weighed 135. I had hair growing that way. I'm living in my car. I haven't showered in months. Right? Living on the edge, right? And all of a sudden, the song comes on. It comes from that movie, The Greatest Showman, where I had a heart attack. And it was the Million Dreams. And I'm sitting there crying. And I said, oh, okay, I'll go to rehab. You know, see, God just sends messengers and messengers all the time. The receiver was blocked. This time I was so broken, something came in. And I went to rehab, and I was a hot mess. I was a hot mess. Right? You know, they asked me, what do you expect to get out of here? And I'm like, I no longer want to be the actor. I no longer want to play God anymore. And 5 days in, I'm good. I'm ready to go home. Feel better, look better, just like in that reading we were talking about it on page 151. And I called my mom. I'm like, hey, Mom, and I'm ready to come home. I'm good to go. And she's like, no, you need to stay there. You're safe and protected. Right? You know, I thought for a second. I was like, you know, Mom, I'm lying. I just wanted to get drunk and high. I got on my knees and I abandoned myself utterly to God in that moment. Something happened. It was electric. All the shame, the fear, the guilt, it was all gone. I'm like literally walking around this rehab telling people I found God. They're like, who's this nutbag? Psycho, right? And I went, you know, this was a mindfulness rehab in Brooklyn, and they asked me to go to this 12-step recovery program from in the Big Book in Minnesota. And I said, no, I'm not going to Minnesota. It's too cold out there. They're like, well, you lost everything. What else do you have to lose, Terry? Okay. So I go out there, and, you know, there's this place called The Retreats. It's a beautiful place. And, you know, I had no idea who worked there, who didn't. 80% of the people were just doing 12-step work. They were alcoholics, recovered alcoholics and addicts doing step work. Right? I didn't, there were people leading the meetings that had like 12 days. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was not used to non-clinical stuff, right? And they were all doing the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I opened it up, and I didn't want to open it up, guys. I thought it was too big. I'm like, screw this book. I was reading the 12 and 12, and I love the 12 and 12 so much. You know why? Because it had no instructions in it. I do not like being told what to do. But the problem with no instructions, there's no promises, right? So when I opened up the book, I found out about the real alcoholic, right? How I'm not different from other people, guys. I'm different from other drinkers. I'm different from the moderate drinker. I'm different from the hard drinker. I'm the real deal. My qualifier is I lost all control once I take liquor and put it in my system. Learn on page 24 how I lost the power of choice in a drink. Circle that word in. I lost mind and body. I lost control in both. I learned on page 52 that my life was unmanageable in the bedevilments. I learned through repeated humiliation that I had to concede to my innermost self that I was a real alcoholic. This delusion, unlike other people, had to be smashed. I'm sitting in my 6th rehab telling myself, how can I successfully drink and how can I successfully stay sober at the same time? That delusion had to be smashed. Had to be smashed. When I got to step 2, and I had a lot of prejudice towards God. You talk about God, I was deaf ears, right? But step 1, I did such a thorough step 1. I got my ass so whooped by alcohol that I was like, all right, I'm willing to believe in whatever, right? And it says lack of power. That is my dilemma. I had to find a power by which I could live. Duh, right? Obviously, but where and how are we going to find this power, right? Guys, my chief responsibility to the newcomer is an adequate presentation of our program, right? I'm going to be completely transparent. This program is all about the power of God in your life. And this book is not the treasure. It is a map to a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. What problem? Name one. Name one, right? Divorce with wife, broke, weighed 135. I could keep going on and on. My experience has been all my problems. And step two, ask us this really simple question. It says, do you believe? Or are you even willing to believe, right? Do you believe it's for the agnostic? Or are you willing to believe it's for the atheist, right? And I really want to give a shout out to alcohol, the great persuader, the great equalizer, the great eraser, Alice. Beat my ass to the point where I said, I'm willing to believe. Right? That's what was always needed. And I was told, you're on your way, Terry. And we agnostics talks about how to find God, why we should find God, where is God, what is God, and when do we find God? So how do we find God? We lay aside prejudice. Just lay it aside. So I picture the first 100 men and women. They're in an auditorium. They're socially distanced. They got their face masks on. They're on their knees, and they're begging us. They are not telling us. They are begging us to lay aside prejudice. They only beg us twice in this book. To be fearless and thorough from the very start. That does not mean a step per month. That means quickly. And to lay aside prejudice. It talks about why we should find God. It says, when we saw others solve their problems with a simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. I'm fresh out of rehab, had that rehab stench still on me. I'm at a line at Mall of America at Chick-fil-A. It's a Christian-based company. I'm online. I get up there, and they're so happy, and they're so joyful. I'm like, why are you guys so happy? Why are you so joyful? You basically work at McDonald's. I'm bristling right then. I don't even have a job. I'm fresh out of rehab, and I'm angry at them. And it hit me right then and there that they had gotten in their life and I did not. They had a sense of stability. They had a sense of purpose. They had a sense of direction, and I did not. That's why I should find God. Now, where is God? It says, actually, we are fooling ourselves that deep down every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. Guys, the great reality is within you. I don't see any aliens here, so everyone has it, right? You ever go into a room and you put a blanket over the light bulb, right? And we do the steps. We pull that blanket off. It shines the light, right? Shines the light. You ever see a baby? This baby's giggling and happy. You think this baby's thinking the drive for success is on. I have arrived. Cursing myself for being a weakling in the mirror. No, they have a constant connection with the power greater than themselves. Then what is God, right? When we became alcoholics, crushed by self-imposed crisis, we could not postpone or evade it, couldn't dodge this anymore. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that God is everything or else he is nothing. He either is or he isn't. What is your choice to be? And I'll never forget this. My sponsor's like, can you explain God? I'm like, hell yeah, I can explain God. Just completely tongue-tied. He's like, it's pretty hard to explain everything, Terry, because God is everything and everything is God and you're not God. Right then and there, I was rocketed right into this fourth dimension of existence I couldn't even dream. God can't be explained, but he could be experienced. I'm going to say that one more time. God can't be explained, but he could be experienced. I could run out of money. I could run out of power. I can even run out of gas while I'm driving, but I could never run out of God. And when I got out of rehab, I had nothing. I had nothing. Choice to be. God is everything. Let's rock and roll. Let's rock and roll. And when I got out, I went into sober living and I learned about the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Mike D talks about the club within the club, right? That sparkle in the eye, right? I'm literally walking by and I'm quoting page 89 to them. You can help when no one else can. And they quote back at me, you can help when no one else can. Being wrecked in the same vessel and restored and united on the one God with hearts and minds to the tune to the welfare of others. I started a little sober gang out there. We called ourselves the Hawks, right? We fight crime by fighting addiction. We fight crime by fighting alcoholism. We fight crime by fighting selfishness and self-centeredness. I wanted to stand outside liquor stores and smack people up with big books. My friend's like, no. This is a program of attraction rather than promotion, Terry. I'm like, okay. But if you want to get patched in, guys, there's only 3 ways to get out: jails, institutions, and death. The fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember I did a job interview with him. You know, I'm 5 days out of rehab. I got a job interview in Minnesota to talk about success, right? And I'm talking to the guy, and he's like, "So why did you move from New York to Minnesota?" I'm like, "Oh shit, tough question." So, I was like, cost of living, blah, blah, blah. He's like, "All right, Terry, let me tell you a little about myself." I got 6 years in recovery. I'm a recovered meth head and a recovered alcoholic. I'm like, oh, what? What, you're in recovery? His boss was in recovery, and his boss was in recovery. There are 3 people I worked with. Everybody was in recovery in Minnesota. I couldn't believe it. I was like, where? You can walk by a coffee shop, there's people reading the big book at every corner. There's a sober house, 2, 3 on every street. I mean, it's insane. Insane. And they're all united under the big book, right? No fluff, all big book, right? It was just amazing. And I asked him, like, how'd you know? He's like, Terry, not many people move from New York to Minnesota. I was like, okay, you got it, man. So now it talks about when we find God, right? And it says sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there, right? Guys ever play hide and seek when you're a kid, right? I go look for my friend, right? I can't find her, I give up, right? Different level of seeking, right? I lose my puppy or my cat in the woods. I go by those same woods a month later. I'm posting up signs everywhere, hoping to hope that my puppy will come out of those woods. Different level of seeking. Now, there's that seeking that I chase that bottle. I'm a 24/7 drunk, right? I chase that baby. Different level of seeking. Imagine putting that towards a power grade in yourself. Even if you do 1/16 of that effort, you're going to get results, right? Well, I got to step 3, and it says we made a decision to turn our will and our life over to care. God, as we understood him. What the hell is that church mumbo jumbo bullshit? Lay aside prejudice, Terry. Lay it aside. Okay. Well, our will is our thinking, and our actions are our thoughts. Right? I'm sorry. Our will and I forgot what it says. Our will and our life, and our life is our actions. Right. And it says that I like to run the show, and I'm forever arranging the lights. I'm forever arranging the ballet to fit my scenery, right? So I got a script for everybody in my life. I don't send them the script. Right? So when they go off script, I'm like, direct the cut, right? And I got this self-will toolkit, right? Where I may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, modest, I even self-sacrificing. But on the other hand, I could be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest, right? So when I got sober, I was more towards the spiritual man, the kind, self-sacrificing cat, right? I open up the door for someone, like, and they walk by and they don't say thank you. Hey, where's my thank you? Right? or I pick up a trash in the middle of the street. Anyone see me do that? I was self-sacrificing, right? But when I was drinking, I was a mean, egotistical cat, right? I'm like, hey, sweetheart, telling my wife, hey, can you grab me a beer? All right, hurry it up now, right? So my show, it doesn't really come off very well, right? It doesn't come off very well, right? I'm standing on stage playing the director when I'm actually just this random actor, right? And I go in, I'm evaluating the scene from my throne, and it's not going to my liking. So I become more demanding and I become more gracious. I don't even know why I have to be more demanding or gracious. I'm God. Do exactly what I tell you what to do, right? Then I'm starting to blame everybody, right? And all of a sudden I become angry and I become indignant and I become self-pitying. That is the path. It is dangerous path for alcoholics, right? I think drink solution, drink answer when I go down that path. I found out I'm a victim of the delusion that I could wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if I manage well, right? Victim meant to be tricked or duped. Rest means I try to force it out of you, and manage means I try to manipulate it, right? And all of a sudden, these players in my show, they start to retaliate, snatching all they could get, hurting me. And now I'm a producer of confusion rather than harmony. Why? Because there's no consistency. There's no consistency, right? I'm just so self-consumed and so self-absorbed, right? Mark Houston talks about, I'm walking around asleep, dreaming I'm awake. I'm walking around asleep, dreaming I'm awake. I'm selfish and I'm self-centered. And it's driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, right? Guys ever go into a cab and the cab driver looks back? He's like, hey, my name is Fear. Where would you like to go today? And fear just drives my ass all over the place. The next day, self-pity picks me up, drives my ass all over the place. And I'm burning down the world while I'm being driven because my spirit is asleep. But I'm walking around dreaming I'm awake. Right? Self-consumed and self-absorbed. That's my problem. It's not alcohol or drugs, guys. Newsflash. Right? So it says this, above everything, guys, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness or it kills us. It says above everything. No, it's even above alcohol, right? And I can't, and I want to be a nice guy. I want to be tolerant. I want to be kind, right? But there's selfishness intact. Self-will cannot destroy self-will. A sick mind cannot heal a sick mind. I need God's help. And it says God makes that possible. Terry's not in that sense, right? I'm going to tell you right now, if I don't get off stage, if I'm not tolerant towards you, if I'm not kind towards you, and I'm not loving for you for who you are, I'm going to hurt you. You're going to hurt me. And I'm going to think drink solution, drink answer, right? It's time to get off stage. It says we need to quit playing God. Why, guys? Because it doesn't work. It says how it works, right? And it, guys, is the program. But the majority of the program is how playing God does not work, right? How playing God does not work, right? And our decision was God was going to be our director. And I read this book like it was a romance novel, guys. I really did, right? And there's a nice invisible line under the third step prayer. It says, we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready to at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. I did not do that. I missed that. 9 months sober, I called my sponsor, like, hey, Terry. I'm like, hey, Greg, I need your help with something. He's like, did you pray about it? I'm like, no, I didn't pray about it. I called you. You're the guru. You're the man. Tell me what to do. He's like, you just need to pray about it. I'm like, damn, that's what to pray about. Guys, there's a lot of pain associated right before a real surrender. Not that wish-washy one, a real deal. I got on my knees and I abandoned myself utterly to him. And I had an answered prayer. I had no idea that God had a 24/7 hotline. I could touch base with him anytime. Anytime. It says it on the bottom, page 58. Remember, we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is your sponsor. You should call him now. I'll take a sip and let that one sit. No, it does not say that. It says there is one who has all power. That one's Teresa. You should call her now. No, it does not say that. There is one who has all power. That one's Robin Sue. You should call her now. No, it does not say that. It says there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. That's a time frame. And God is everything. God is the great reality. God is now. Right? And right after that, I decided finally that hereafter in this drama life that God was going to be my director. I was going to be his actor. He was the principal. I was his agent. He was a father, and I'm his son. And he's my employer, and I'm his employee. And how do I know I'm working for the new employer? Stop working for the old one. And that was me. And remarkable things started to happen. I had a higher power before. Now I have the highest power in my life. That's if I kept close to him and performed his work well. And how do I perform his work well? By having a servant's heart. Having a servant's heart. Came in Alcoholics Anonymous, a big shot. Worked my way all the way up to servant, guys. All the way up to the top spot servant, right? It says God doesn't make too hard terms with those who seek him. Those are the terms. Those are the terms. Christmas just passed, guys. Christmas just passed, right? I wanted to be on Santa's nice list to get some presents, right? So I dipped into myself a little toolkit of kindness and self-sacrifice, try to get some presents. Found out I wasn't on the list. Damn it. Okay, I'm going to be on the naughty list. Mean, egotistical, selfish, and just like, no. I don't do either of them today. I'm just that happy elf, that happy, joyous-free elf, carrying out God's will with no credit, no money attached to it. And there's no amen after step 3. It just says next or at once we do step 4, right? And it took me 2 weeks, Teresa, to do step 4. 2 weeks. 2 weeks to draw those lines. I looked at those pretty lines. They were cute. I didn't write anything. And then pain came back. Oh, shit. Pain's a touchstone for growth. Here it comes, right? Took me 2 weeks and then 45 minutes to knock it out, period, right? Learned about resentment, right? Swallowed some big truths about myself, right? Learned about how they were fatal, how they were poison, how they destroy more alcoholics than anything else. Not even alcohol. The resentment kills more alcoholics than anything else. Learn how I have to look at it through a different pair of glasses, how people who I was mad at were spiritually sick, right? I put them in the hospital, but I wouldn't treat people sick who are sick like that, like a piece of crap. No, right? And after a long time, I look down at people like, yeah, they're spiritually sick. They don't know anything. But it says, like ourselves, they were sick too. So the same pain that drives them drives me too. We are equals. We are equals. And then I looked at the fourth column. Now I could see the fourth column. I saw my mistake, my fault. Where am I to blame? Not my part. As I say my part, I'm going to be so hung up on their part, I'm going to forget about my part, right? Learned about my character defects. I learned about fear. How it's an evil and corroding thread, man. And my life was just ripped through with it. 100 forms of fear. I had 25 on my inventory. I should have had more than 75 more to go, right? This is where I had a match calamity with serenity. This is where I had to trust infinite God rather than my finite self. For every one of my single fears, I learned that God has my back. I asked God to remove my fear and direct my attention to what he had me be. And I tried hiding my fifth step, Teresa, from my sponsor. I thought he would have, my sex conduct from my sponsor. I thought he would have noticed. He's like, you missing something? And the fifth step talks about we're trying to have a new attitude and a new relationship with our creator. What is the definition of new? Something I've never done before. So I had to say that sex inventory in order to have a spiritual experience, and I did. Right? I was delighted after that. I could look the world in the eye. I began to feel the nearness of my creator. I had spiritual beliefs before. Now I had a spiritual experience. My attitude, my ideas, my emotions started to change. I was on the broad highway with my creator, walking hand in hand. It's not a two-ness, guys. It's a oneness. Right? And when I got into the fifth step directions, to go in that 1 hour quiet time, and it talks about meditation. What is meditation? Meditation is focused thinking, right? If you guys know how to worry, you know how to meditate. So when you worry, you focus your thinking on the problem. When you meditate, you focus your thinking on the solution, on God's word. And I thank God from the bottom of my heart. Look at the first 5 proposals. Was my work solid so far? Yeah, it was the best of my ability, right? I went into step 6, and this is the step that separates the men from the boys and the girls from the women. This is how I grow in the image and likeness of my creator. I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of pain associated with letting go of defect of character. There is a lot of pain. And when I got to that point of absolutely letting go, right, I was ready to say the 7-step prayer, and I asked my creator that you should have all of me. Keyword all, right? All who has all power, not Teresa, God, right? Right? All of me, good and bad. Why are they good? Because God can do better. And I go back into a contract with God to do his bidding. Now I go put some legs on step 7 and go do steps 8 and 9. Right? And after my 5th step, I'm going through a divorce with my wife, and I was blaming her for everything. I just did my 5th step. I found out I'm the asshole. Right? I'm like, oh shit. And my sponsor's like, kill her with kindness. So that's what I did. And my wife and I, we started talking, and we're back together, and we have a beautiful relationship together. And my life is indescribably wonderful. And it's all because of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I just had to get my ass out of the way, period. Right? And I came back to New York, and I did 2 amends, and I thought I was done. I'm good to go. Right? It is easy to let up on a spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels, right? It's simple, but it's not easy, guys. A price had to be paid. That meant the destruction of self-centeredness. And in 1930, destruction means to take apart piece by piece. So I had to take apart piece by piece selfishness and self-centeredness with God's help through action, right? Action, action. Sometimes we fall into a trap, guys. God kept me sober. God kept me sober. God kept me sober. If that was true, the big book would be 1 page and 4 words. God kept me sober. No, it says it on page 85. What we really have is a daily reprieve condition upon the spiritual, to our maintenance of our spiritual condition. I memorized that first because I wanted to sound cool, look cool. No, it means we got a ton of work to do, right? Work, work, work. Faith without works is dead. And when we do this work, we catch the grace of God, which solves our problem. In my experience, it's been all my problems. So got to the point where I balked on step 9, and I caught a resentment at the same time. I went to a detox and to carry the message with these 2 big book guys. They're all drug addicts there, and I told my drug addict story, and afterwards I'm eating dinner with the 2 guys I went to the detox with, and the guy's like, Terry, I'm concerned you're not a real alcoholic. I'm like, what are you talking about? Bill's story is my story. Identify with the allergy. Page 24, bedevilments, that's me. And then afterwards, I'm like, maybe he's right. Like, maybe he's right. The obsession to drink came back. Not even drugs. I'm like, I could taste the tequila in my mouth. I'm literally out of traffic light, looking to make a left to go to the bar or make a right to go to a meeting. That's where I was. Call my sponsor. He's like, did you finish your meds? I'm like, no. It's like, maybe you need to finish your meds, right? So I had one of my friends, he was an enemy in my mind, and I didn't want to call him up because I thought how I'm going to fight with him, what he's going to say, how I'm going to retaliate, all this crap, all this crazy stuff. I'm looking at my phone and I'm telling myself I'm willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. Right? I'm just, God, give me the willingness to give him a call. I'm just telling myself it's 45 minutes. I call him up and he picks up the phone. He's like, hey, Terry, where have you been? I love you. I miss you. I had no idea that people had love and compassion for me. Right then and there, I was rocking right into this fourth dimension of existence. I couldn't even dream. I found out the two most important dates in my life. It's not my sobriety date. My sobriety date just measures how much time I have. It was the day I was born and the day I found out why. And the day I found out why is to fit myself to be a maximum service to God and the people around me, period. Oh, let's rock and roll with the men's now, baby. Let's do this. This is where the juice is. This is where it is. It took me 3 months to knock my men's out in 1 week. 3 months of not doing jack shit and 1 week to knock them out. Plowed right through it. All of a sudden, I started to notice I'm waking up in the middle of the night. I'm like, hold on, I didn't have a dream about drinking. Hold on, I'm not even thinking about drinking. The obsession was gone. And it never came back. God started to take that rearrangement, that spiritual experience, and change me. A personality change. So, I got to step 10, and step 10 there's no rocket science here, guys. We're doing everything so far. The only difference is the word continue, right? I've been rocketed into this fourth dimension. What am I supposed to do? Well, it's beautiful here. I'm supposed to grow in effectiveness and understanding. I'm supposed to grow in the image and likeness of my creator. What is effectiveness? How well am I carrying out God's will? What is an understanding? How well am I listening to that great reality inside? That little voice that tells you to stop fooling at a stop sign instead of plowing right through it? Yeah, that's the voice I'm talking about, right? It talks about the 10 step, the problem has been removed. What is that problem? Selfishness and self-centeredness. That has been removed. Step 10 is all about reducing the shit out of me and more God. Reducing me, more God, right? It says we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. Look, check this out. Gratitude is an effect of living in the presence of now. That place of neutrality, safe and protected, period. Step 11, I was talking to God, but I wasn't really listening to God, right? It's like me calling up Teresa. Hey, Teresa, how's the weather in North Carolina? I just hang up the phone on her. Or, hey, Alice, how's the weather in Fort Lee? And I just hung up the phone on her. I got to listen to what they have to say. I have to listen to what God has to tell me. This is how I have a conscious relationship with God, not an unconscious relationship, a conscious relationship with God. This is how I have a working relationship with God. This is how I have inspirational thinking. Step 12, it says, nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking than intensive work with other alcoholics. I get immunity from drinking when I help others. Guys, in order for us to become the greatest teachers, the greatest students, we have to become teachers. We have to become teachers. We start to live the words in the book, how we make the words come alive. And what happened when COVID happened, right? It said, if an alcoholic failed to perfect, which means make better, and enlarge, which means make bigger, his spiritual life was a relationship with God, himself, and others. Through work, which means intensive work with other alcoholics, and self-sacrifice means in demonstrating these principles in all our affairs. He could not survive the certain trials and the certain low spots ahead. COVID was a certain trial and a certain low spot ahead. If he did not do any work, he would surely drink, and if he drank, he would surely die. And then faith would be dead indeed. It's just the way it is with us. Why was I happy, joyous, and free during that time? Because I was doing intensive work with other alcoholics, and I was demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. Right? We did some remarkable things. I was talking to a guy earlier, Kyle, about people in South Africa. I was listening to people's fifth step in South Africa, India, and Vijay, I see you here. I'm listening to that guy's fifth step. I mean, this is incredible. Helping people in California, Florida, England, Minnesota. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, I did a third step prayer with all newcomers, 50 people on there. We all banned ourselves utterly to God. I've never seen anything so powerful in my entire life. We did some remarkable stuff. And about 9 months into it, I kind of stopped helping people, right? I started Started resting on my laurels and stopped praying a little bit in the morning, and stopped meditating. And, it says, we feel a man is unthinking when he thinks that sobriety is just enough, right? It's like that farmer comes out of the cyclone and sees his home ruined by a tornado. He said, hey, I don't see anything about it here, Ma. Ain't it grand? The wind stopped blowing, right? Thank you. Glad I got it. And all of a sudden, I started seeing myself. I'm starting to fight with my wife all the time. She's on my inventory every single night, my 10-step or 11-step review. I'm starting to become disturbed. Whenever I'm disturbed, it's because I'm disturbable. And whenever I'm upset, it's because I'm upsettable. Right? Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? Started to have justified resentments. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? I'm colliding with people at work. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? Look, I'm adding tips. I deliver pizzas. And I own my own junk removal business. And I'm adding tips to the people who stiff me on deliveries. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? Money is now my God. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? It says on awakening, let us think about the 24 hours now. I'm like, on awakening, let's check out Bitcoin real quick. Let's check out this bad boy. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? I'm starting to gossip and talk shit about other people. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? Right? I'm playing video games while I'm on meetings. Got my video turned off. Playing. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? What was the final straw? There was this major snowstorm last year, and I'm freaking out. I called out of work 5 days before the storm. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing? I'm shaking in the mirror, looking at myself. Complete fear, complete terror, the reconstruction of the ego, the bedevilments. I finally decided to resubmit myself to the process of going through the 12 steps. I did steps 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in one day. Doesn't have to take you a year to do it. I did it in one day. I was at the jumping off place, just like in that reading we talked about. I'm thinking suicide solution, suicide answer. I'm past the drink part. Go through the steps again. I did it in one day. Part of my fifth step, I had a fear of mine. I couldn't get my wife pregnant. Made my amends. I took a nap afterwards. I wake up. My wife gives me a letter. She tells me she's pregnant. On the same day, I did all the steps. I was rocking it right back into this fourth dimension of existence. Right? You know what's really cool about the fourth dimension? When you're in it. When you're in it. My wife had a horrible, tough pregnancy, right? Fourth dimension described definition-wise. It's on page 25. Our mind, body, and spirit, they're all interlocked together in a way of living, a design for living, a manner of living. Central fact, lives in a way. I was there when my wife gave birth. She had a C-section. I'm holding her hand, my head against her head. All of a sudden we hear, whee! And my little boy, Phoenix James Pomeran, was born on August 2nd, 2021. My boy, PJ. I love him. So what am I doing today? And, people like to say, I'm on steps 10, 11, 12. I'm on all of them. I live them every single day. And I wake up every single day. I'm like, good morning, Terry. You're an alcoholic. Pay attention. Okay. Remember who you were, right? Because if I took one drink, that person would be easily resurrected again. I go to step 2, there is a God, it's not me. I go to step 3, do the right thing right now. Then I go into on awakening, right? I ask God to divorce my thinking and direct it, especially that it be divorced from self-pity, self-seeking, and dishonest motives. Why motives? Because an alcoholic with a motive is armed and dangerous, baby. My job is to become motiveless, a hollow bone like Mark Houston talks about. In the beginning of recovery, and if anyone's new, I know that Liza, Daniel, Mike, Kyle, you guys are new, and put your alarm clock for every 30 minutes or every hour and surrender your will and your life over the care of God, as you understand. And I promise you won't think about yourself. I'm an extremely example of self-will and mind. I don't even know it. I, me, my, the great I am, the great for me, the great MY, I'm thinking about myself. I don't even know. When my alarm clock goes off, ring, ring, ring. All right, surrender. get on my knees, and I turned her over. I go into a contract with God, relieve me of my selfishness so I could carry out your will and go help your kids. You know, talks about in the big book. Well, you ever hear in meetings it talks about what's it called? Expectations or premeditated resentments. You ever hear that? That's not consistent with our book, guys. Right? This program says, and this book tells us to expect miracles. Miracles are going to happen when you do the work. Do the work. God works on you afterwards. He will work on you. All right? You know, I did in the beginning, I was an enthusiast, right? I ran to extremes. I wanted to learn more, and all this big book studies, all that. But it inhibited my ability to actually live this way of life, right? It got in my way of becoming, right? Becoming this way of life, that fourth dimension that we're talking about. Much more important demonstration of our principle, guys, lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. The big part of the 12 step is not doing intensive work with other alcoholics. It's doing the other stuff at home, at work, and with everybody who are around, right? Right? And they're in that order for a reason, guys. Why should I demonstrate these principles at home? Because if I'm not doing it at home, I'm not going to have a home. If I'm not demonstrating these principles at work, I'm not going to have a job. If I'm not demonstrating these principles on all my affairs with everyone who I meet or everyone I come across, I'm going to be colliding with you and become angry, indignant, and self-pitying, and I'm going to think, drink solution, drink answer. Imperative that we do this, all right? There's 75 pages dedicated to step 12, from working with others to 164, page 89 to 164. Read them. Those are not forgotten chapters. 2 wives, 2 employers, family afterwards, and vision for you. Those are important stuff in there. There's juice in there, guys. There is juice. Today, I also do a lot of practice for step 10 and 10 and 11. I love this. I'm going to share this with you guys. And I take a line out of page, say 84 to 85, 84 to 88, and I live that line. I put it on a note card, and I practice that line all throughout the day, right? We are neither cocky nor we afraid, right? All day I'm practicing that, right? I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I'm starting to become this way of life when I do this. I'm starting to watch out for my selfishness and self-centeredness and my dishonest and my fear coming up. I'm watching all the time. I'm turning my thoughts to constantly helping others. What about those other alcoholics, right? And it's incredible when you start to practice the words and all the promises in pages 84 to 89. And, I do a lot of intensive work with other alcoholics. I go to meetings today, not to feel better. That shit sailed a long time ago. Is to help the guy who has terror, bewilderment, and frustration and despair on their face. Those are the people I'm looking for. If you need help on here, I'm going to put my name on the chat. Call me. All right, let's read. All right, let's read. I want to read this one little last thing to you guys. It's from my boy John McDougall, being sober and becoming happy. Oh, there's my alarm clock. I got 1 minute. Let's go. So it's about angels, guys. There's another word meaning for the word angel that is every bit as human as you and I. The ancient Greek word angelos and the ancient Hebrew word malach both mean angel, but they also mean messenger. Oh, in that sense, angel is a job description, like librarian or firefighter. A librarian is someone who catalogs and maintains a library. A firefighter is someone who fights fire. Any person who carries a message of hope to us from a higher power is functioning as our angel. They may not be personally angelic or even spiritual. They are carrying out a job on behalf of God. They may not even know that they're doing God's work. They're just doing it. Once we come to believe that there is a power greater than ourselves who can and will restore us to sanity, that there is reasonable that this higher power would try to do it. It is rare for God to show up in a white light experience. More often than not, God sends human angels with messages of hope. The disease of addiction tries to set up an effective barrier in the brain of hearing any hope, but God just keeps sending messengers and messengers. Only when we look back, we actually realize it. Guys, I am 1,000% convinced that God has a successful recycling business. He takes trash, he turns it into treasure. He took me, a piece of trash, a tornado roaring through the lives of others, a victim of a delusions and illusions, an unlovely creature, and he transformed me. He transformed me into a father, into a husband, into a reliable coworker, into a man of faith, a man of forgiveness, a man of love, and most importantly, a messenger of hope. My name is Terry. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Thank you.